Hey everybody, welcome into Odd Rhythm Fantasy Studios Sports. I don't know which one it is, but welcome in everybody. Um, yes, I am your host Jamie. I got my co-host Eli over there on the other side. We are diving into. Is it one of the bigs? Which one? Which one is it? Is it one of the bigs? We are diving into the Big 12. So we're going to break that down for you this evening. So welcome on in.
Big 12, Big 12, Big 12, yeah. Ah,
I wish my sound effects would work, but I gotta work that
I
out,
know.
man.
I wish so too.
There's no show without the sound effects.
I got
Oh,
props. I got weird noises coming out of my mouth. So, uh, hell yeah, we're back again. Tag team back again. Thursday night special. We don't do a lot of Thursday night streams. This is actually how we started the show years ago when it was called something different. We did a lot of Thursday night action, so it's kind of back to our roots a little bit tonight. But you know what? We got to pay the bills, and as always, Jay, where can they find us at?
well, you can find me at Odd Rhythm Fan on X. You can find him at Eli Appletoff, and we have all the good juicy audio stuff on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's where you can find us most of the time. But I'm sure there are other platforms out there where you can find us too as well. We got the Discord as well up in there where I post everything that I share, anyways. And I don't know, I'm working on the little Instagram thing, and post some stuff about waiver pickups, and I'm working on a little something here to kind of put out there to see what people think about it. But working on a little something. Eli saw a little preview of that to either yesterday or today. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. Saw a little preview of a
I
little
like
something I
what
was
I
working
saw.
on. But yes, but yeah, I'm gonna try something a little bit different, especially when it comes to waivers and stuff like that. Put a little stuff out there on those, TikToks and Instagram, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays, and the IG good stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna try some of that stuff.
You
That's
should
where you can
try some
find
of
us.
this stuff. You should try some of this stuff I have in this cup. It's actually a mix of I got some lime in there, I got some Tito's, got some prime blue, so that was pretty freaking good. You know what? What's not to be excited about? Well, I grew up on the Big 12. You grew up on the Big 12. I mean, we've changed some of the teams, but I mean, hell, we've got. I mean, look at this. Look, we got a graphic here. You can see a lot of different teams represented. Growing up, K-State, Nebraska, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma. I mean, this was the conference. The Big 12. Before the SEC got really good, the Big 12 was the conference. So, I'm happy to be talking about this tonight. As you can see, we got some other teams in the mix now. Arizona State won the conference last year, as we know, with Scattaboo. Cam
Well,
Scattaboo running all over the place. Sam Levitt will. I was choking there.
Jesus.
Talk a little Sam, probably talk a little Sam Levitt, maybe Jordan Tyson. Did you hear Jordan Tyson is undecided if he's going to play for week one there against Northern Arizona? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to affect. I think it would just be. They might hold him out because they don't need him to beat Northern Arizona. I mean, that's a shoe-in win.
That's a crime. That's a total crime. We
Well,
want
that's why I bring it up is for fantasy purposes. If because he's going to be, if not already, I'm not sure where he's going. His ADP is at for the drafts, but or if you currently have Jordan Tyson on your team, you should probably be on the lookout for week one. I know we're about a week and a half away from the full slate of games, roughly 9 days from the big. I know we've got games starting as early as this Saturday. We got K-State and Iowa State, a Big 12 matchup here. So this is timely that we're doing this. We're kind of previewing this a couple days before before the festivities begin. Another Big 12 team is going on Saturday too. Kansas is playing Fresno State. So couple Big 12 teams here represented for kind of the unofficial week one. This coming Saturday. So, you know what, Jay? Let's get into it. I'm excited to do the Big 12, another big conference. We did the Big 10 last time. Had to do Had to do another one of those. Who knows? Maybe next we'll do another smaller conference. You know, the MAC, Mountain West, something like that. But
Conference USA, and I don't know. Even if the season does start, we're gonna try to at least get all the conferences broken down, just so that good variety. Who knows? I mean, there's gonna be some players that might happen. You might end up watching this later on, and you end up hearing a guy that I might have brought up here that no one's even heard of, and it's like, oh, all right, cool. Actually, just heard a different name that that actually could be starting here. So I mean, a guy goes down, this guy end up picking him up.
Yeah, and we're gonna update things as we go. We're gonna obviously, if we don't get to let's say the MAC, Ball State, teams like that. By the time the season kicks off, let's say it's early September, if we're covering some conferences, we'll update. As of like the first 2 weeks, this is what this player is doing in the conference. We're trying to introduce maybe the casual viewer or somebody just getting into college fantasy football, kind of introduce them to some of the characters here, some of the players that have been putting up big fantasy stats the last year or two, and then other guys that are just working into the fold. You know what? As always, Jay, got to start with the QB. Got my handy dandy football here. I need this. I need the liquid that's in here. Otherwise, I would toss a pass to myself. And we all know I would catch that. But who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? Utah. They got a big time recruit. Big time recruit through the transfer portal. Devin Dampier is my number one fantasy quarterback for the Big 12. And some might say, well, Eli, what was he doing? Where did he come from? Well, funny you should ask. He was at New Mexico the last couple years, and he has a stat line more like Bryson Daly and Blake Horvath. Kind of the military academy guys from last year. That we talked up so much with. Devin Dampier, but he passes more. That's what I like about this kid. You're getting all the rushing production that you got with those guys, Bryson Daly and Blake Horvath, but you combine that with, he put up a respectable number of passing yards. Oh, Jared's back. Oh, good. We got the whole family back tonight. But yeah, we're talking about Big 12 here. Hell yeah, let's go, Jason. Thanks for tuning in. Hell yeah. We're talking some Big 12 here. And just starting out with my QB list here, I have Devin Dampier at number one. He was the transfer from New Mexico. Almost 2,800 yards passing, Jay. His completion percentage wasn't that great, but we don't care about that as much in fantasy. That's a stat they talk about on the 4-letter network or CBS or some shit like that. So we don't really. I throw it in there because it's a stat, but completion percentage is kind of irrelevant in the fantasy game. But he did have a lot of turnovers, though. He did have 12 interceptions. I think he had a couple fumbles, too. So that he's got to get the turnovers down, especially in this conference. If they're going to have, any chance, we know Utah got sabotaged last year with that damn Cam Rising guy. Couldn't stay healthy. Too busy working on his facial. He looked like a damn pirate. Too busy working on his facial hair and other stuff instead of going out there getting on the field and try. What would they go 4-8 last year? Utah. Utah just doesn't do 4-8. They're usually 8-4 at worst. So Utah's got a good program, but I love bringing him in. This is nuts. 1,166 rushing yards and 19 rushing touchdowns, Jay. So basically, you're getting a feature running back and quarterback stats on top of that. He was the number 7 fantasy quarterback. So that should just tell you like how many fantasy monsters there were last year. John Mateer, we mentioned Blake Horvath and Bryson Daly, guys like that. The fact that he was still at number 7, giving you number 1 running back stats and the passing stats as well. But I'm going to put him at 1. Sam Levitt, we both love him. And Dampier, and I'm going to mention this about all the Big 12 quarterbacks. Yeah, I'm pumped up. You're damn right. They're all except for my number 5 guy. These top 4 guys, Jay, you're going to get a couple years out of. So if you're drafting them in a dynasty league, if it's a startup league or however you come about it, like you have at least 2 years of eligibility for all 4 of these top 4 guys here. So if they're your core, and they were all great in fantasy. I mean, you're looking at the top 4 guys were all top 25 fantasy quarterbacks, throughout college football, the FBS level. So all 4 of these guys are quality. I just kind of ranked them how I project them. Sam Levitt, I'll put at number 2. To me, he's like the NFL. He's like the NFL guy. He's the most ready. Maybe not the most ready, but like he's the most like NFL-esque prospect, right? Like we wouldn't be shocked in the 2027 draft if Sam Levitt was like the number 1 overall pick, right? So that's kind of where he's headed. Last year had almost 2,900 yards passing, completion percentage about 62, so a little bit better than some of these other guys. 24 passing touchdowns, only 6 picks. Gave you a little bit in the rushing game. You kind of like a little bit more to kind of be to take that next step to be an elite fantasy player. Had about 443 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. But there's a lot of upside with Sam Levitt. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say, here's the thing about Sam Levitt. Just kind of looking at a couple. Dampier had at least 11 interceptions. A couple of Avery, he had about 12 interceptions. So 11 on the other hand had 6 interceptions total. Beckett, he had about 9. So you can see that Levitt's a little bit more cautious when he throws the ball. So he wants to be kind of on par. So those I can't even talk now. But anyways, low on the INTs. Let's just put it that way. So good pocket passer, low INTs. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
the accuracy is great.
Yeah. Sam Levitt doesn't have any issues with accuracy. He can move enough. He's kind of in that Jackson Dart mold. From last year, we remember Jackson Dart when he was at Ole Miss. He's athletic enough. Oh, thank you, Jarrett. Yeah. So you're not gonna like Avery Johnson, mobile court. I mean, dual threat. Obviously, Devin Dampier is the ultimate dual threat, like a little too dual threat. Where like, I mean, but although NFL note, Anthony Richardson was finally benched. AR5 is no more. And that made me think of Devin. That made me think of Devin Dampier, because if Dampier ever got to look at the NFL, we'd be looking at another 47% completion future bust. But
that is
fantasy. It's college fantasy, and Dampier, he works here. Sam Levitt, I love a lot going forward, not only in fantasy, but if you're an NFL fan, kind of projecting. Hey, we're going to need a quarterback in a couple of years. This might be the guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say. I mean, if Dampier was in the Big 12 last year, he probably would have been, just in the conference itself, he would actually been, the top fantasy guy, last year if he was in the Big 12. So, but
and that's saying something. I mean, there wasn't. I mean, it was a lot of these same characters. Avery Johnson, Rocco Becht. But Shedeur Sanders, hello, guy had a monster, 37 touchdown, like almost 4,000 yard, something like that season. So, and he would have still been the top fantasy guy, like Jay was saying. So, Devin Dampier, fantasy monster. Number 3, Jay, I put Rocco Becht from Iowa State. He scores a lot of touchdowns, I would say. Like his passing yards are good, not great. Rushing yards gives you a little bit there, but it's the touchdowns that kind of puts Rocco in the top 5, and especially number 3. He had 25 passing touchdowns last year, 8 rushing touchdowns. Obviously, as we know, excuse me, I gotta have another drink of this. It's so good. But he lost Jaden Higgins, lost Jalen Noel. So his top 2 and they were both NFL guys. They were both like day 2 guys in the draft last year. So lost 2 of his stud receivers. I think they brought a couple kids in from the portals. So Carson Hansen, who's their feature running back, he's back this year, so that should help. But Rocco Beck, he could slide a little bit here, not having as good of weapons to work with as he had last year. So Rocco Beck could be a variable here. If there's a guy outside the top 5, and I'll see what Jay thinks. Maybe Jay's got a guy that I don't have in here that. Maybe Rocco Beck slips a little bit. Maybe he's like the number 6 or 7 fantasy quarterback in the conference. So that's very much a possibility. Number 4, I put Avery Johnson from K-State. He gives you a nice mix. And like I said, another situation, junior. No, so you're getting at least 2 years from this guy. So I mean. And K-State, they're going to have a good offense this year, so Avery Johnson should benefit from that as well, or at least have the same stat line as he had in 2024. But over 2,700 yards passing, 25 passing touchdowns. Got to get the interceptions down. Had 10 picks last year. Got to get that down just a little bit. Kind of, if he wants to touch a guy like Sam Levitt, he's got to do that. And the rushing is another thing that's his strength. He had over 600 yards rushing and 7 rushing touchdowns last year. And we know that's usually the strength of K-State is their rushing game. They were the number 2 rushing team in the conference last year, right behind UCF. And I'm sorry, who was the UCF running back last year, Jay? Who is that fantasy monster that's about to tear it up for the Broncos?
RJ Harvey, baby.
Our man, RJ Harvey. You damn right. Yep. So K-State this year, UCF's going to take a step back because you don't come across an RJ Harvey every day. So,
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, there is somebody out there that I was kind of looking into that possibly could I wouldn't say replace, but maybe bring that same attitude. But yes, but here we have a quick question. This is totally, this is actually a big boy question here. So just give us one moment and we'll get back to that. Yeah. So Peyton here, should I trade Tank Bigsby, Keon Coleman, and Xavier Worthy for Jared Goff and Ricky Pearsall? It's a 2 QB league, and my QBs are Anthony Richardson, but now I'm out of a QB or Mahomes and AR5.
You got to do this deal and then just kind of work the waivers to kind of repatch the team a little bit. Anthony Richardson's dead. Okay, let's say they ship him out before the season starts. Like he'd be like a 3rd string reclamation project. He'll be like kind of like Trey Lance. Because that's kind of where I see AR5 is a Trey Lance, reclamation project. So he ain't going to see the field. So that's a dead quarterback situation there. And then you're trying to work the waivers. I don't know if Daniel Jones is available in your league, but I mean, Danny Dimes is going to, I'm just trying to think of like low end starters you might be able to get. And that's going to be hard with 2 QBs with a 2 QB league. Ricky. We loved Ricky Pearsall before he came out, the draft last year or before the 2024 draft. We like Ricky coming out of Florida. There's some upside there, especially with what Jawan Jennings is like their number 1 receiver right now with Brandon Ayuk down.
I think Jawan Jennings is on the injured list, so I don't think he. I think he might be missing
he might be banged up too. So Ricky might be the 49ers number 1 receiver right now. And Brock Purdy, you can say what you want about Brock Purdy. He's at worst he's like the 16th, 17th best quarterback at worst. So in fantasy he's usually productive. So I'll take my chances with Ricky Pearsall and Jared Goff and go from there. Xavier Worthy, obviously he might pop a little bit more in his second year for sure. I forget. Jay, you want to put the comment back on the screen? I remember Xavier Worthy. I'm trying to remember the other. Tank Bigsby, unless there's an injury. I don't see Tank Bigsby being a feature guy. He'll probably still be a backup or a complimentary guy like he's been. In the league a couple years now. Keon Coleman, there's some huge upside there. I get it. I get the intrigue with especially with Xavier Worthy and Keon Coleman. I get the intrigue, but your quarterback situation just took a shit on you. I mean, we all did. We were taught, after the first couple games of 2023, I remember me and Jay talking about AR5. Like, we were like, wow, this kid's going to be the next, this guy's like Lamar Jackson, but taller. This guy, like, he's just he's going to take over the league. And it never, it ended up being Jaden Daniels, who ended up being like Lamar 2.0 and not, AR5. AR5 is more Trey Lance. So, you do what you got to do there. Work the waivers, work the rookie draft, with some of the guys that just came in with the 2025 draft. That's what I would say. I'd say take Goff and Pearsall.
I'm good. I got it right.
Back to the Big 12 here. Close out my top 5. See if Jay has any thoughts.
And better close out that
Corona. Yeah, drink up, boy. Sawyer Robinson or Sawyer Robertson. I gotta get a big Texas voice here. Sawyer Robertson. Baylor is my sleeper team in the Big 12 this year. They went 8-5 last year. I like a lot of their offensive players. We're going to talk about quite a few of them.
Gee, should we just make this a Baylor show and just cut out everything?
The Baylor Bears, baby. It's coming. Everybody's like, whoa, where do I put my money down, Eli? Or who's going to be this year's Arizona State? Who's going to be? It's Baylor. That offense is lethal.
Dude, did you see their new? I think did you see their new jerseys? They came out with a nice chrome helmet or something.
Yeah, I saw.
Something like that.
Yeah, I saw that on X. Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah. When they're winning 10 games, they're gonna be looking slick. If they wear those a few times. But this is the only downfall with Sawyer Robertson. He's a senior, so basically it's a redraft. If you're just basically getting a 1-year guy. But, last year had over 3,000 yards passing. Completion percentage was good. Didn't turn the ball over a bunch. Only 8 picks, 28 touchdowns, 8.3 yards per attempt, which is damn good for somebody that had as many attempts as he did. 8.3 is really good. Gave you a little bit in the ground. I mean, that's not his specialty. He's more of a pocket quarterback, but gave you 230 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. Sawyer Robertson, along with the rest of the Baylor offense and skill position guys, very underrated. If he ends up as your fantasy quarterback or I guess in a deeper league, it would more likely he'd be on your bench. But I would roster this guy in a heartbeat. Absolutely. And then
their running back room, I love it. I mean, we talked about Washington. I mentioned Washington here pretty much. I can't remember when it was, but I mentioned him in one of our waiver shows that you should go out and snag this guy up because I believe he ended up with like 10 or 11 touchdowns by the end of the season, and he had like 1,100 or 1,200 yards rushing as a freshman. So I'm like, just kind of look, for me, I guess, I was always like, oh, seniors, and then I'm like, so kind of diving into these, I kind of taking a step back just a little bit, and I'm like, well, hey man, especially if you're doing dynasty too, you can take a look at some of these freshmen, especially a guy like him, you can go and snag him up, get some of these guys that are a little bit younger, a junior or sophomore, and you get get some years out of these guys, and Washington will probably be around for maybe hopefully another year or so. And who knows, this guy might be, as long as he doesn't get hurt, this guy could be almost maybe a first or second round draft pick, if he keeps it up.
Yeah. This Baylor team, you want to stick money on a team. This isn't usually a betting show, but on the side, hint, go lay some money down on Baylor to win this conference. I'm telling you.
I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be kind of rough. I mean, for me, I guess. I mean, it's kind of. I wouldn't say it's an open. I want Arizona State to actually be up top there, once again. But I mean, it is a very kind of the conference itself.
Open.
It is. It is.
Oh, Jay.
That's what I was just gonna say. The conference itself is wide open. I mean, the bottom feeder here is Houston. The team doesn't really lag any offense.
And they got better because they got money. Because it's some of the bottom feeders in the Big 12. I mean, they got some NIL money coming in. They got some boosters, and so this is a strong conference. This is a Power 4. People like to knock the Big 12 as they're the 4th best conference, or like I don't get that logic. Why you're knocking? There's nothing wrong with being, even if I think they're better in the ACC. Just top to bottom, I think the Big 12 is the third best conference, but behind the SEC and Big 10, of course. But yeah. So don't knock I love that it's wide open. I mean, even Colorado. I mean, they can't run the ball to save their life, and they didn't really address that in the transfer portal. Their rushing game is a joke, but
they might be able to change that. I don't know.
Got Caden Salter. Jay, they got Caden Salter from Liberty.
Yes.
I don't know. Are you intrigued at all with Caden Salter? Can maybe Dion and crew, can they maybe get him back to his 2023 form? Just for the fantasy owners, like, is there any possibility of that? Because Caden Salter let everybody down. I mean, I think wasn't he a first round pick last year? Like something like that. He was super high.
Yeah, he was. I believe he was either the first or second quarterback coming off the boards, and pretty much took a crap. Everybody held on to him. I'm sure more than likely. I mean, he still put up fantasy points, but not like what he did. It's kind of like the Brian Brown. The one year he had put up, he was the top rated, fantasy guy, 400 some odd points, and then everybody was on him for the next year, and then pretty much laid an egg. But he was plagued with some injuries and whatnot. But I mean, hopefully that actually ends up turning around. But I don't know. There might be a guy that I might have in there as a top 15 guy of mine to watch, or a sleeper, because I know they got some guys there, and I believe if Salter can actually turn his stuff around, he might be a guy to kind of watch too.
Yeah, Caden Salter, Sorsby from Cincinnati, another guy that you might be able to throw in this top 5 here as well. Brendan Sorsby, he had a really good season last year with Cincinnati. Cincinnati got Walker from Wisconsin in the portal, so Cincinnati might be another team that's respectable. So they're the Big 10 is, or I'm sorry, the Big 12 is plenty healthy, especially in fantasy.
But I do got one question for you. One question and one question only. Where is Jaden Daniels at? Or not Jaden Daniels? Yeah.
Oh, he did. He gone.
Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels
from Kansas. Yeah.
Yes.
I looked into his stats because I did a thorough dive on all 16 teams here, and I was kind of cherry picking a player here, player there. And I thought that team was more Devin Neal based. Like any success, they didn't have a ton of success, but the success they did have was a lot on Devin Neal. He was a really good running back for them. I don't think Jalen Daniels is very good at all. I think they'll be better off in 2026, even bringing in a freshman or a transfer portal guy. Jalen Daniels, I'm off of. He's been hype. He's been hyped for what, 3 years now? 3 years. Like, just get Jalen Daniels out of. He ain't Jaden Daniels, and that's who he needs to be. He needs to be like his brother in the NFL.
Yeah, I just thought I'd ask because I was kind of looking at him too a little bit. Just like from a top 15, I'm like, I had a list of guys because I know you
better not have put Jalen Daniels in the top 15. He ain't top 15 of anything. He's not even top 15 on his own team. Probably guard that's better than him.
I mean, the sad thing is that I don't have no Cincinnati player, but I do have some guys from all the other other teams, and I'm just like, I could not find a Cincinnati guy that would be fantasy relevant to actually put down here. So I'm just like, oh well, screw it, whatever. I guess Cincinnati, it was just out. He's just out, man.
But there's one guy, but that's coming up later. We don't get the tight ends until the very end of my little top 5 list here. And some of you that are just tuning into us for the first time, we can't talk tonight. Just tuning in. We don't touch defense. We don't. It's not that we don't care about defense. We, when you're watching a game, you don't like every game to be 70-40. So. But this is fantasy. Mainly, we focus on the 4 main skill positions: tight end, quarterback, running back, wide receiver. So that's usually where we restrict this stuff. We're not listing the top 5 safeties or the top 5 corners or any of that stuff. So if you were looking for defense, this ain't defense porn. So We do got running backs, Jay. We got some running backs here. And your guy Bryson Washington is number 1 from Baylor. Shocker. What did this guy? Now the running backs aren't as strong as the quarterbacks, obviously. Quarterbacks, you have all 5 guys are in the top 35 in fantasy quarterback, from last year. So, I mean, you couldn't backup starter. You can't go wrong with any of those 5 guys that I mentioned the previous screen, and some additional guys, Sorsby, Caden Salter, guys like that too. So Big 12 is plenty healthy at quarterback. Running back, they're healthier than so we've mentioned some other conferences, like the smaller ones, Sun Belt, AAC is respectable, but they lost quite a bit of talent. So I think the running backs are healthier than those 2 conferences, but still, projecting a little bit here. Bryce Washington had over 1,000 yards rushing last year, 12 rushing touchdowns. Gave you a little bit in the receiving game, not too bad. 22 receptions, 217 yards, a touchdown. What I love is you're probably going to get 2 years from this guy. You're probably going to get at least 2 years from Bryson Washington. So, in Dynasty, you can kind of keep him around. He's not going to be a one and done on your team, as we say. So you're going to get some value from him in a redraft or Dynasty. There's not much more to say. I love the prospect of Baylor, Baylor's offense at the very least being the top offense in this conference, or one of them. This team had, I'm in love with this Baylor team. I might get me a Baylor Bears tank top and cut off the sleeves. I love them so much.
I don't know. I mean, like before Bryson got there, I mean, the year before, I mean, Baylor was okay. I mean, they were all, I mean, they weren't really like winning games here and there before he actually showed up, so they were kind of like a mediocre, either 4 or 5 win kind of team,
Yeah, they haven't been relevant since when, like Art Briles was the coach, or like RG3 back in the day. They haven't really been a relevant program probably the last 10 years, and it's good. Mm-hmm. It's good to see that they're coming back a little bit, and got some weapons. But yeah, Bryce Washington, I put number 1. Number 2, like I said, he's taken over the feature role from an NFL running back. Like DJ Giddens is gone, as we know. Dylan Edwards, I put at number 2. He's taken over the feature role, kind of, and that's what K-State kind of does. I would still consider myself, if you put a gun to my head and said, who's your favorite college football team? I would say Kansas State. I grew up with Kansas State. All the old players. Terrence Newman, Michael Bishop, all those guys back when I was a little kid. So I'm a K-State homer at heart. So I mean, obviously, I would love to see the program thrive, and some of their skill position guys, just fucking knock it out of the park in fantasy. Dylan Edwards had over 500 yards rushing last year, 5 touchdowns, gave a little bit in the receiving game. 19 receptions, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. So yeah. And if you'd what, if you like what you see, yeah, subscribe. You know what? Why the hell not? I've been doing some piercings lately. I'm kind of piercing at a tattoo shop too. So you come to us for fantasy. I offer other services. Jay might sell you a car part. That's what he does. So, I'll deliver you a package, pierce you. Jay will sell you an auto part, and then we'll give you fantasy football advice on top of that. Where else you gonna find that on the interweb?
No.
I don't hear any thoughts about Dylan Edwards. Like, I know he was kind of the sidekick last year, complimentary guy. But
I didn't really. I mean, I know I didn't really get a chance to really watch a lot of K-State, because I ended up watching a little bit more like the Pac-12, or before they ended up.
We both did. I was living up where Jay was last season. We watched a ton of college football together, and a lot of it was Mountain West, Pac-12. Or Oregon games. We saw quite a few Oregon games, or USC.
I know. I mean, for Edwards, I think, with him filling it, kind of filling the shoes of Giddens. I mean, does he bring the same explosiveness to the game? Is he, the only thing about it is, Avery, he does a little rushing too. So I mean, it's almost kind of like a 1-2 kind of thing. It's almost like an RRBC kind of situation. I think, with him be able to take it off and running a little bit. So I mean, it's kind of like one of those 1-2 kind of things. And I know. I mean, Edwards, I guess I'll have to kind of see. I didn't really get a chance to actually dive into him, but I mean, with the K-State, I mean, the opportunity is actually there for him to actually, get touchdowns, get the bulk of the carries. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, be interested to see. Put him there just because you know what. I like the prospect of having somebody that might become a 1,200, 1,300 yard rusher. Kind of take that next step, add a little bit in the receiving game as well. Usually K-State running backs in the past have been dual threat in that sense. So yeah, I like him. I like him there. You could swap him around a little bit. I would understand that as well. Put Carson Hansen at number 3 from Iowa State. He was the number 46 fantasy running back last year. So nothing wrong with that. Respectable season. About 752 rushing yards. 13. So he had 13 rushing touchdowns, which I didn't know until I kind of dived into him a little bit. I was like, holy shit.
If you think about it,
He's
any
from
chance
Lakeville. He's from Lakeville, Minnesota. I lived there for I think about a year and a half. I lived in Lakeville. So
yeah.
uh,
It's crazy to think about that because any chance I got an opportunity to watch like I-State, I did it. Especially when when you're tossing some prop money, props down on some of these guys.
Yep.
You're totally tuning into these games and whatnot. I know I was always doing either Higgins or freaking Noel, on some kind of prop throwdown at least because one of these two guys are going to get their yards or their touchdowns or whatever it might be. And Hansen was in that mix too. So I mean, Iowa State was a team to be watching last year. I mean, to me, I think they might have lost a couple guys, but I think there's a guy in there that can actually either be a Higgins or a Noel in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? They're going to have to, if Iowa State's going to repeat what they did last year. Trying to remember. Yeah, they were 11-3 last year, 7-2 in the conference. So, if you're going to have a season like that, you're going to have other guys step up. Rocco Becht is a solid quarterback all around, fantasy wise. Maybe work his way into being a late round draft pick for 2026. But you're going to need guys like Carson Hansen and some of the transfer portal receivers to kind of step up into that role. So Hansen, I put at 3. Lacks a little bit in the receiving, and that's kind of his bugaboo. Why he can't touch Bryson Washington at number 1, but he only had 88 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. So, but he's got a nose for the end zone. He's, like I said, 15 total touchdowns. So got a nose for the end zone. Solid running back. Would probably be a bench guy on your team, but you know what? We both number 4, Jay. We both like LJ Martin quite a bit last year from BYU. I remember us talking about him and Rapati. I think it was Rapati and Martin that were like the 1-2 punch with BYU last year. I'll see what your thoughts are on LJ because I know you know him a little bit better. So he had just to recap, a little over 700 rushing yards last year. Jay, 7 rushing touchdowns. Didn't do a ton in the receiving game, kind of like with Hansen. 98 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. So not 9 total touchdowns, a little over 800 all-purpose yards. You think LJ could kind of improve on those numbers or?
I think he should be able to. I think he should, with what he had last year. I mean, I think he should be almost 1,000-yard back. I mean, with Rapati, I think he might be a little bit injured. So I mean, there's a good chance that Martin ends up being 1,000-yard back. And I'm hoping we can maybe see a double digit touchdown with this guy. And the only downfall is their quarterback room. I mean the guy that Retroloff, I liked him. I like him in the pocket there, but
Yep.
stuff
Yeah.
happened with stuff happened at BYU, and now he's down in
Yeah.
Tulane.
Supposed to be a Mormon college, right?
So I mean, honestly, I think BYU is going to look. I think I didn't really look too much into the quarterback, who their quarterback is.
Oh,
I just
they got Jay. They put or they elevated a true freshman. I think it's like Bear's his first name. Bear something. I think was just named the starting quarterback at BYU. So BYU could. I don't think. I mean, there's been some true freshman quarterback. I mean, Sam Levitt last year with Arizona State. I mean, Sam Levitt was damn good. Nico was really good, for Tennessee.
Legway. Yeah, Legway struggled,
DJ
but he came
Legway
around.
from Florida. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a possibility. He wasn't super highly recruited. I think he was like the 35th ranked quarterback in the class. So, not high end guy, but I don't know. BYU could be, for some of these other programs like Baylor, which I think are going to take a step forward. Like Baylor could be in that conference championship mix. I think BYU could take a step back, maybe be a 7-6 kind of team. Maybe win a bowl game or something. But BYU is probably going to take a step back. But LJ Martin should thrive though with a young quarterback. They're going to rely on probably tight ends and running backs like usual.
Yeah, so that might. So I mean, wasn't quite sure who they had, but I know I seen something. I thought I seen BYU landing like a 4-star quarterback for like next year or something like that. I wasn't quite sure. They landed somebody pretty hot in the out of the high school platform or whatever it was. But I was gonna look a little bit more into that because I seen something like, ooh, that's kind of flashy or whatever. So, but I don't know. I do like their team a little bit. I mean, there's one. I mean, they had a couple of good wide receivers. They do have a good wide receiver there, which I do like. I just hope he can just excel just a little bit more. But maybe with the freshman guy, and I don't know how much more he will. His ceiling will rise due to the freshman.
Bear Bachmeyer. That's the kid's name. Bear Bachmeyer, starting quarterback at BYU. So if any of you were curious out there, true freshman. So, buyer beware if you're gonna look into somebody like that in Dynasty. Let's see. And then number 5, Kanye Uda, Buddha, whatever the hell you want to call him. It's Udo, but I call him Uda.
Or what does call him K Uno? K Uno.
Hey, Uno. So he was a stud running back with Army last year. With our favorite guy Bryson Daly, the Daily Double. He got his grubby hands into the cookie jar too. He got over 1,100 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns last year with Army.
What?
So I'm intrigued by him going to Arizona State. Kind of taking over for Cam Scattaboo. He's not going to be as good as Scattaboo. Let's just be honest. But especially, we don't even know if Kanye Udo can catch passes. He caught one pass for 3 yards last year.
What? Well, I mean,
our Army throws the ball about once a quarter. So maybe in terms of like the pass catch ratio, that's pretty good that he caught a pass like all year. But
that reminds me, do not do any props on Army people besides just the quarterback.
Yep, the quarterback's going to score like 25 rushing touchdowns, but the other players are kind of, especially the receivers. The receivers are out there to block. They're not.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the rushing outside was probably like 60% over to the passing was maybe like 20% of the time. So you can see how like off-centered they are. I mean, Navy, Army, pretty much literally the same teams, just different colors.
Yeah. Yep. And then Arizona State, be interesting to see. maybe they use him in a similar role to Scadaboo, because Scadaboo was a guy they brought in from the portal. He was an FCS guy from Sac State, and we didn't know Cam Scadaboo was a couple years ago, and then he burst onto the national scene. Everybody loved him, and now he's with the Giants now, NFL.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
I thought he was an interesting prospect. You start going down a list of teams. Walker from Cincinnati, he was an interesting guy. The transfer guy from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good like almost a good month, and then he just kind of like fell off, because I know I brought him up. I mean, because
you talked about him quite a bit.
Yeah, I did.
So we had him. I didn't see, it's as with any of these lists, the number 5 guy is always subjective. It's somebody you can swap out. There's always, but I think for sure the top 3 guys here should stay where they're at. I think the top 3 guys, Dylan Edwards, his productivity, he should double his stats. Let's just, that's kind of what I'm projecting. He's going to double his stats and end up being where I ranked him. End up being where he belongs. So, running game, as evidenced by Colorado, who averaged 65 rushing yards a game last year. How's that even possible? 65 rushing yards a game. Colorado, pathetic. I mean, we loved all their receivers. LaJohntay Wester, obviously Travis Hunter, Will Shepard, all those guys, but
Joe Horn.
Colorado's rushing game, just ick. Stay away from them. They don't know how to run the ball out in Boulder.
Well, I guess we could say that Michigan their run game was a little bit better than Colorado's. I guess they knew how to do something.
You want to see the world's worst? You want to see the world's worst offense? Combine Michigan's passing game with Colorado's rushing game.
There you go.
Now we get a little interesting. We talk about wide receivers. You gotta catch that. See what I'm doing?
Wow.
I got my light up football in the back. Catching. There we go. Jordan Tyson, Arizona State, might be. He has an undisclosed injury. Might be questionable for week 1. So. But he's too good not to draft, or he's too good not to, if it's just a week, you might just have to get a fill-in guy. Like we always say, like, are you going to get rid of Jamar Chase because he's out for week 1? No. Are you going to get, start going on a list and, even like a guy like DK Metcalf, are you going to get rid of him because he's hurt week 1? No. So it's the same concept with Jordan Tyson. He was the number 15 fantasy wide receiver last year. So you don't mess with that. 115 targets last year, Jay, over 1,100 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. He's probably got, technically he's a junior. I mean, he could come out after this year. We'll see what he does, but you could possibly get 2 years out of Jordan Tyson. And
it's very
I don't know.
possible.
Do you agree with me that he's the top fantasy receiver in the conference?
Oh, I mean, in the Big 12, yes. Yeah, in the Big 12, yes. He's the top guy. I mean, when you think about, Jeremiah Smith, I mean, that's debatable, because he's Big 10. But I mean, these two guys are almost, they're almost on par. I mean, these guys can go back. I mean, these guys are seeing over 100 some odd targets and whatnot. But I mean, if you think, I ended up, I had the first overall pick. I picked Jeremiah Smith. But if I had not, if Tyson was actually there in the second round, I would totally do it. But I mean, he's the first round guy coming off the board. I mean, that's just no doubt about it.
Yeah, as he should be, because we both think Sam Levitt's going to get even better than he was last year. And Tyson's going to be his number 1 target, and Tyson's going to if he get rebounds, whatever this undisclosed injury is, he rebounds, has a monster season. He has a chance to be a first round draft pick. Jordan Tyson's got that level of talent. So keeping him there at number 1, let's be honest, he could be out for 3 games and he'd still be the top fantasy receiver in the conference.
I don't know.
Other guys,
a lot of us ended up drafting him in the first round. We're going to be pissed off because he's not doing anything. We're gonna be
Right?
like,
Yeah, right. Wait around. Just wait,
yeah.
and, and then boom, we there you go. Week 4, he has 10 catches for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. You're like, oh shit, that's what I was waiting on. Josh Cameron at number 2. He was actually a top 45 or number 43, I think, for the fantasy rankings last year for wide receivers. So top 50 fantasy receiver. Nothing wrong with that. It's back to that Baylor offense, like I keep talking about.
Good God.
They're 3 for 3 so far. They got the top running back, the number 5 quarterback, according to me. Now the number 2 fantasy receiver in the conference. Josh Cameron had 52 receptions last year, 81 targets, a little over 750 receiving yards. What I like is the touchdowns. Had 10 receiving touchdowns. That's kind of his strength. He has a nose for the end zone. But Josh Cameron's a senior, so you'll probably just get 1 year out of him. That would be the downside. So better for a redraft or whatever you're laying down for him. But you know what, Jace Brown. I'll keep going down the list here. There's your receivers. We'll see what Jay thinks. Jace Brown from K-State, only a junior, so you'll probably and he's not a world beater. He's not one of the. We all know that Jeremiah Smith is coming out. The minute Jeremiah Smith's got eligibility, he's hitting the draft, right? A guy like Jace Brown gonna need a couple years of some stats, some seasoning, and then maybe he could end up the next because he's kind of built in the same mold as Tyler Lockett and a lot of the previous K-State receivers. These slender, faster guys. He's kind of building that same mold. Last year, averaged 17.5 yards a catch, 823 receiving yards, only 5 touchdowns. But as Avery Johnson seasons another season, that sounds like a tongue twister. Well, I would say Jace Brown is his number 1 target, so we'll see him improve there. And you know what, Amari Thomas at number 4. Ooh.
I'm quite honestly surprised to actually see a Ute up in on your list here. Kind of surprising.
Yes, Houston. What's the saying? We've landed Houston or something along those lines. I forget what NASA would. Houston, we've hit the moon. I don't know, but landing Amari Thomas in the transfer portal, that helps a hell of a lot. Because this offense was junk last year. Houston's offense was trash. So it's good to see that they have some life. Maybe they have a little bit of money. I don't know. But last year at UAB, this guy had 62 receptions, 8 touchdowns, got 96 targets. So, he was, all in purposes, he was the number 1 guy at UAB. Like, he was their number 1 receiver at UAB. See what he does coming over to Houston. Can't do much worse. Like I said, Houston was a joke. Hopefully they improve on that this year. Maybe become bowl eligible. That would be great. But yeah, had to put the red and yellow colors or the red and white colors in there. Had to give a little love to Houston. Their basketball program's killing it. Didn't they make the Final Four last year?
Yeah.
So the football program needs to step it up. Amari Thomas, I like quite a bit. Only a junior, so you'll probably you'll get a couple years out of him. More than likely a waiver guy, I would say, for Amari Thomas. He's gonna be a waiver guy, but keep a close eye on him because I remember him at UAB last year. I picked him up actually, like he was on the waivers, and I grabbed him, and he benefited me. So, and then the last guy, Eric McAllister from TCU. Why I include him? He had some pretty good stats at Boise. He's at Boise State before this. A couple years ago, 2023, had almost 900 receiving yards. Last year, numbers dipped a little bit coming to TCU. 39 receptions, 762 yards, five touchdowns. But he was only targeted 58 times. So he wasn't targeted that much. This year, he's expected to have a bigger role. I think he'll either be their number 1 or number 2 receiver.
Well, and
he's also on the preseason Big 12 list. I think he's second team receiver for the Big 12. So, it's not just me that feels this way. The some of the writers do as well. I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think about this list of receivers here? Not quite as strong, obviously, as the Big Ten. It's debatable if any of the smaller conferences. Sun Belt had some decent receivers. We know Ted Hurst and a couple of those guys, but we know Jordan Tyson's great. What do you think about the other four guys? Is there anybody that stands out, or is there anybody that's not in my top five that receiver that you're like, that should probably be in the list, Eli?
I'm surprised you didn't have Caleb Douglas in there from Texas Tech in there. I mean, because he's a high flying guy, and Texas Tech is the most. They're 1,000 some plays in a season. I mean, they're go go go. So I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't have a Texas Tech guy up in here.
I should Barrett. I didn't even mention Baron Morton. The Texas Tech quarterback. He has some good stats last year.
Yeah.
That's another guy that could have you could have argued to be in the top 5.
Yeah,
so I mean Texas, and we know Texas Tech has got that they got that sweet Texas NIL money. So I wouldn't argue if you had any Texas Tech players. I don't have any in the top 5. I don't think any of my list, but I mean you could definitely argue for Texas Tech.
Other than that, I mean, you had there's one other. I mean, Brown there. I was actually he's the funny thing is that he's actually in one of my lists too. So I was kind of looking at him a little bit for a guy that might rise to the chalkboards there a little bit, but
rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I have a couple other smaller guys that I might mention. And another Texas Tech guy is Coy Eckergen, from Texas Tech. He's a wide receiver. So he had a little couple hints in there as well. But I mean, McAllister, I mean, with Savion Williams being gone,
Savion Williams is, yep. So they're going to need a new number one. Savion was the clear number one. We both remember him from fantasy last year. Fantasy owners remember him. So that would be my logic there. TCU had one of the top passing attacks in the conference. Probably one of the better ones in the country, to be honest. Josh Hoover. That's another guy. I didn't even mention Josh Hoover from TCU. I mean, this conference is so deep in quarterback. Like probably the deepest quarterback conference that there is. I mean, you're looking at it right here. The Big 12 is just nasty deep. Eric McAllister could very well end up the number one receiver for Josh Hoover in the TCU offense. So I think he's got the highest upside of any guy outside of Jordan Tyson.
Yeah, I mean the guy, the guys with guys like Josh Kelly from Texas Tech last year, 1,000 some odd yards, 5 touchdowns. He's gone. So we got Douglas and a couple other guys down there. Caleb Douglas. I mean, he was actually the top 10 or actually top 15-ish too in the Big 12 too as well. I mean, even with that guy with Kelly gone, Kelly being on the other side over there. I mean, he had almost 1,000. I mean, both Texas Tech. I mean, they almost had 2,000-yard receivers, which is almost par to Iowa State, which is crazy to think about that.
Yeah. No, Morton's a good quarterback. Texas Tech. I wouldn't be surprised if they were easily 8-9 games for sure. Texas Tech's gonna be right up there. They're gonna be right up there in the conference as well, and some of their skill position guys too are gonna pop. Top 5 wide receivers there. Bam. We got one more skill position, and then I'm gonna do a kind of a watch list guy. I've been doing it the last few times. Kind of a guy that's probably off the beaten path a little bit that you can look into. Kind of whether it's dynasty through your waivers. You want to. It very DFS, like whatever you want to end up using that guy for is just another tool in the toolbox, as we say. So get to that segment after this one. Well, I gotta, tight end Jay, I got a Cincinnati guy.
Oh, impressive!
I think this is the first time we've seen the Cincinnati colors represented, the black and red.
So unfortunately, my top 15 has no tight ends whatsoever, and I was trying. I'm like, I was literally trying to find a tight end to put in my list, and I have nothing. So if you're watching right now, follow Eli's top 5 here, and yeah, don't follow my top 15 because I have
Yeah.
no tight
Well,
ends.
well, but in all seriousness, follow both of our lists here. Like I said, we're introducing characters to the story. Some of
Yeah.
these guys, especially if you're a casual college football fan, casual fantasy guy, maybe you bet a little bit or something. You probably maybe never heard of some of the back guys here. Garrett Oakley from K-State, Dylan Wade, who was at Maryland last year. Guys like that. I totally understand. That's why we're here. But Joe Royer, tight end from Cincinnati, I put it number 1. And Tanner Koziel from Ball State, he's a transfer, another Houston guy. Houston, we've landed. Houston might, like I said, they're going to be better this year. They're going to be better. They got better skill position guys. But why I put Royer above him? Because Koziel had, he had 94 receptions last year, had 129 targets as a tight end. Ooh. I'll talk about Cozy real quick and I'll get back into Royer, but like some of the stats he had at Ball State last year, ridiculous. He was the number 4 fantasy tight end. And some of those guys he was up there with, Aronde Gadsden from Syracuse. Obviously, our main man, Harold Fannin Jr. From Bowling Green. He was above like Tyler Warren. Obviously, Colston Loveland didn't have the greatest fantasy stats because he had no quarterback, but Colston Loveland, first-round draft pick. Tyler Warren, first-round draft pick. So these are heavy hitters. Koziel beat them in fantasy. So, but yeah, I'm going to put Royer above because he has the experience of being in a bigger conference. Koziel did this in Ball State at the MAC conference. Not the competition is not as good over there as it is in the Big 12. So, it's a wait and see. Royer had 50 receptions on 81 targets last year, 522 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. So solid tight end. He was the number 25 fantasy tight end last year. So nothing great. Like I said, you're not looking at a Brock Bowers here or anything like a world-beating tight end, but Royer's solid. Probably going to end up being a starting tight end on somebody's team, or at least a backup for sure. I think he'll definitely be rostered. Tanner Koziel, like I was just mentioning, 94 receptions on 129 targets. Yikes. 8 receiving touchdowns, almost 840 yards receiving. The only reason he wasn't number 1, like I said, Jay, like I just mentioned a little bit ago, Ball State. It's a different level of competition coming to the Big 12.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does here, but I did want to pay him respect, put him in number 2. Michael Trigg.
I mean,
Michael Trigg from Baylor.
129 targets.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of targets.
That was ball. Yeah. If you watched any, you probably didn't because Ball State was awful. But if you watched any of their 12 games last year, you saw a lot of that guy. And he was probably the only person that stood out on the screen. Michael Trigg from Baylor, I put at number 3. Just, solid tight end. And Baylor, they're 4 for 4, baby. You see why they're my sleeper team to win the conference. You see why they're my sleeper team to have a bunch of standout fantasy players. They're 4 for 4. Josh Cameron, Sawyer Robertson. They're covered. They're covered. Michael Trigg here now. 30 receptions on 51 targets last year. Almost 400 yards receiving. 3 receiving touchdowns. He did this in 9 games. So if he gets a full, kind of why I put him above Oakley, Wade, any of the other random tight ends from the conference, because. And Trigg's got he was at some bigger programs, so he's got kind of a little bit of a pedigree. He was at, I think, Ole Miss for a little bit, USC for a year. So, so bigger programs have thought this guy has got a bunch of talent. So, Michael Trigg, I'm going to keep there. He's a one and done guy. He's a senior, so you'll get 1 year out of him. I would assume Trigg will be a waiver guy. So, keep an eye out on him.
Yeah.
Garrett Oakley from K-State. Another, a junior, so you'll get it. You get a couple years out of him. But like I said, probably be another waiver guy. 22 receptions last year on 36 targets. Oakley does have a nose for the end zone, though. For only 36 targets, 5 touchdowns is good. So, 5 touchdowns is respectable. He's got a nose for that. We'll keep an eye out on him. Not quite Ben Sinnott. Ben Sinnott was our boy a couple of years ago from K-State, second round draft pick by the Commanders. So not quite as good as Ben Sinnott was a couple of years ago for K-State, but Oakley should be solid. We'll see if his numbers can improve. If it all kind of depends on Avery Johnson. If Avery Johnson improves and Dylan Edwards gives him a nice running game, then we'll see Garrett Oakley's stats go up as well. And then number 5, I put Dylan Wade. He's a portal guy from Maryland. He had decent stats. Not a lot of touchdowns, only had 2, but he had 374 yards, 29 receptions on 45 targets. So Dylan Wade went over to UCF. This is the first UCF sighting is on my list. So kind of sad, but there's no Jefferson at quarterback. there's no RJ Harvey. There's not a lot going for UCF, but Dylan Wade will be a solid tight end.
As much as I would have loved Jefferson to be something when he transferred from Arkansas, I'm just like, what the fudge?
He shit the bed. He collectively shit the bed.
He did. He did. All right. Which is the unforeseen circumstances with that guy, but yeah.
You know what? And I got to segue into this. We'll keep the show rolling. Just do a little dance move here. It's getting late. That's fine. You know what? The hell with it. Jay usually works pretty late into the nights, as do I. I'm like Sean McVay. I look like him too, but I'm like Sean McVay, like a damn vampire. I wake up and we get back to work. This guy, now he's a preseason Big 12 first teamer. So Jaheim White, it's not just me. Some of the pros, as they say, some of the writers, they think he is as well. So they think this guy's the bee's knees, or he could be. Taking over from C.J. Donaldson. Donaldson is out of the picture now. So Jaheim White's going to get featured touches. And I think Garrett Green was a solid fantasy quarterback for them last year. I think Garrett Green's gone as well. So they're going to be dependent on Jaheim White. Like if this team is going to do anything this year, and I think they're going to struggle, to be honest. I think they're going to struggle to be 6-6. But if West Virginia is going to do a little bit of anything, it's going to have to be through Jaheim White. Do the dance again, Eli. Ooh. Yeah, get this on a YouTube short, man. There you go.
Right.
my was it my black eye included. Jaheim White, 844 yards last year, 7 rushing touchdowns. Gave you a little bit in the receiving game, but like I said, he was a complimentary guy. He was a sidekick guy last year. C.J. Donaldson was the feature guy. So I think Jaheim White, kind of taking over the mantle. These stats are going to go up, and it's a penny stock that could turn into something great. This guy could possibly be. We could be talking about as an NFL prospect soon. If he has a good year here.
I think so too. And I was kind of looking at West Virginia too a little bit, because I always kind of like watching a little West Virginia here and there. And I mean, when Will Greer was there just tearing it up, I mean, he was the talk of the town at that time too, when he was back at with West Virginia, so I always kind of watched him. And he was one time, or is maybe a Cowboy. He kind of bounced around the NFL a little bit, but I was just like, oh hell yeah, Cowboys need him. But he played a couple games with us. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of guys that I think there's another guy on this team that you need to kind of watch out for too as well, and that will be Rodney Gallagher. He's kind of a smaller name. He kind of in the wide receiver room a little bit, and he had like 228 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I think he'll amp up a little bit more too as well.
His
just a name to watch.
I was gonna. You might not be wrong there, Jay. I was gonna say like Hudson Clement, the kid I talked about that transferred to Illinois. He's out of the room. He was like their number one receiver from last year. And Garrett Green's gone. So yeah, no, definitely he could improve his stats as well. So yeah, there's a couple. So we mentioned a couple guys from West Virginia to keep an eye on. Jay, can I tag you in?
Can you tag me in? Let's do it. Tag team back again. So I'm going to show you my couple sleepers here. And yes. And well, one of them is a Colorado guy. Since you didn't have any Colorado guys,
sad. It's sad. I love the NFL just totally took a shit on the kid, and I feel bad for him with the Browns. He looked good in that preseason game, and they still have him as the 4th-string quarterback. It's a joke. Kenny Pickett's awful. Joe Flacco is 2 seconds from being dead. Dylan Gabriel's too small. Side note. Shedeur should be starting with the Browns.
Yes, but Colorado landed a nice, huge transfer in my eyes. Joseph Williams.
He was off. Jay, he was off some with Tulsa last year.
Yeah, I mean he was a freshman last year, and he did win a freshman award too with Tulsa. So he won a freshman award for that. With him transferring to Colorado, I don't know. I think this is gonna advance him a little bit more. I mean, I believe for me, his touchdowns are going to go up. I mean, hopefully, we just mentioned earlier in the show too that Salter hopefully should get his shit together, get back in the group, and be what he was with Liberty. Not Liberty.
No, he was at Liberty. Yeah, Cade.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's like with Brown from South Florida, like we mentioned, like Brown from South Florida and Salter from Liberty were like 2 of the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks from 2 years ago. And it's like they've fallen off the map. Well, Brown we talked about with UCF, he should be back, and Salter working with guys like Joseph Williams. Joseph Williams he was one of the, and the stats don't look like great, but he played great. Like the stat. He didn't put up a 1,000-yard freshman year. We get that, but from what we saw and we tracked him on the waivers, the back half of last year, he really turned it up.
Yeah,
and he could step in and he could earn the number one or number 2 job with Colorado. Definitely, be their number 1 or number 2 receiver. I truly believe that.
Yeah, they had Omarion Miller, who was there last year too as well, and he's believe he's the only returning guy from Colorado last year. So I think this room is very well wide open, since we all know that Colorado really didn't have a rushing game at all. So maybe
no rushing game. I don't know. I know starting at tailback.
I mean, I don't know. They have Marshall Falk as their, running backs coach. So
that's what I'm saying. They have Marshall Falk as the running back coach, and they have no running game. How's that even possible? Marshall's just got to be like, hey, let me strap it up. Let me put a helmet back on. I'll run through Marshall Falk is one of the greatest running backs of all time.
Yeah, I know. And then I don't know. I mean, Rodney Fields, running back from OSU. I know. With our boy being gone, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity.
This is Jay. I don't mean to cut you off, but is this Ollie's replacement, Jay?
Hopefully this is Ollie's replacement. But I don't know. I mean, they have a couple guys up at the depth chart, but I think this is going to be more of an open. I think this is going to be an open contest. Really, honestly, you think about it. I haven't seen really any games, and I think this, it's going to be trial by error. Honestly, you think about it. So I mean, Rodney Fields. You saw a little bit, 99 yards, 1 touchdown, 20 fantasy points in there, but maybe a little bit more. They're projecting him with 481, 2 touchdowns, and I'm like, from the little bit I see, and he's got a little spark to him. So I mean, I think he can bring some juice to this offense. I know it's going to be revamped a little bit. I know they don't have hopefully they don't have like 40-year-old freaking quarterbacks at the the reign of what they used to have. It's just like, oh my god.
Brandon Whedon. Didn't they have a pirate last year at quarterback? I think they were joking on social media because it was like Cam Rising against was it Allen?
I don't remember.
I know his first name was Allen.
Yeah, he was, he was up there in age too. So they're like the oldest quarterbacks, and it seemed like OSU had like the oldest quarterbacks of all time. So it's just like, oh my god, bro. But I
Alan
know,
Bowman. Alan
yes,
Bowman. That's
Bowman.
what he
Yeah.
was like. He was like the red blondish pirate, and then Cam Rising was like the pirate, like the dark.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So I don't know. I think he's a guy that you might want to just click the little star on and have him as a watch guy or of a
Yep.
waiver guy. I think there's just too much wouldn't say predictability. I mean, I think it's just a more of an open room. They're gonna probably toss some of these guys in there and see which one splashes the more. With um the carries, open fields, and whatnot too. And I don't think he really caught a whole lot either in the run game, the pass game a little bit. Um, yeah, so he didn't really have really an opportunity to, just because Ollie had the bulk of the carries the last couple of years. So I just got to watch for in my eyes. So yeah, those are Eli's and ours guys to watch in the Big 12. All right.
And if you're not following along, or kind of you're like, what the hell's on the bottom? So the ticker on the bottom has got like basically the rankings from last year, the average per game for each of the teams, with passing and rushing. So to give you an idea, and some things will change that. Like obviously UCF won't be the number one rushing offense in the conference this year, right? That was an outlier because of RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey, stud running back, second round draft pick with the Denver Broncos, gonna tear it up this year. And he had a monster fantasy year last year. So, but yeah, it gives you a good idea. Like Oklahoma State was the number 14th ranked rushing attack last year, and that was with Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon right now, he's like the buzzword in fantasy, right? They're like, oh shit, if A-Chain and I think they got rid of Raheem Mostert, but I'm trying to think of who's
Yeah.
above him with the Dolphins depth chart. But Ollie Gordon might
Come
end
on.
up at the start. Ollie Gordon
Come
might
on.
end up as the starting running back for the Miami Dolphins,
I
middle
know.
of the year or something.
I mean, he was a Tennessee guy. We talked about him. Come on now. We talked about he was one of our college prospects that we talked about.
Oh yeah, Jalen Wright. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, Jalen Wright and Devin A-Chain are above him on the depth chart right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ollie Gordon just blew by these guys. But I mean, Ollie struggled behind this offensive line last year. I mean, imagine what this kid's going to go through. But
Yeah.
it's still worth taking. Still worth keeping an eye on.
Yep. All right. So now on to the next thing here. We're pretty much just gonna kind of run through a breakdown, pass rush. We're just gonna take an overall look at, some of the guys we talked about and why they are kind of in some of our rankings, which you'll end up seeing some of my rankings after this here. That's why I mentioned Texas Tech up here at top. I mean, Iowa State, I mean, they were rocking it, 10,000, 1,000 some odd plays coming from Texas, that's 77 game, 77 plays per game. So you can kind of see how fast paced they want to be. Kind of same way with the Iowa State, 70 plays per game. You can kind of give an idea, the pass to the rush, so you want to stop right now and screenshot this or whatever you want to do, be my guest. If not later on, if you follow me on X, this might be out there too. So you can check that out on the X too, which might be out tomorrow. I don't know yet. But Eli mentioned Baylor. I mean, 904, which I probably should have did that in white because it was, because of their colors. Is kind of hard to see that there. I believe that's 48 to 34 rushing, but I think that's going to come up a little bit more. They're probably going to be a little bit more. I don't know. I think they might be more 50-50, and one might be 50, one might be, so that might change a little bit. Yeah, as you can see, West Virginia, 41 to 50. I think that's 58. So you get this will give you a little bit more of an idea which teams are a little bit more pass heavy, which teams are a little bit more rush heavy. Maybe you can attack one of those, pass heavy teams or one of those rush heavy teams. So this gives you a little bit of an idea what's what. I mean, look at UCF. The pass 37% to 62%. RJ Harvey was a beast, which is why they were rushing so heavy.
Jay, that I can see two teams right now that are gonna drastically flip coming into 2025. Arizona State and UCF, like you're mentioning. RJ outlier. Cam Scattaboo probably an outlier too in terms of running backs, both NFL running backs. Arizona State's going to, especially with a quarterback as good as Sam Levitt, Arizona State's going to get closer to balanced for sure. And UCF, I mean, they won't be as good as Arizona State, but they'll get closer to balanced as well. So,
Yeah, this is only the first half of the of
yep.
this, because there's just so many teams in there. So I mean I know I can see why you probably had a lot of Baylor guys. I mean their rush side was a little bit more, I believe, a little bit more heavier than with the past. But when I do upload this, there'll be a white there, so everybody can kind of see that. So that was kind of my fault there. Just kind of, I was trying to hurry up and upload this, and I probably forgot to put that in white just so that everybody can see it during the live stream here. But yeah, we'll go on to the next and final here. But I know UCF. I kind of like it here. But here's your last remaining teams. We got some Colorado, Cincinnati, OSU, Kansas, Utah, and Houston way at the bottom here. You can kind of see how often some of these teams were kind of, how often they're 60 to 50, so they weren't as par. And Utah struggled. I mean, Utah was a struggling team. I loved watching the last few years, and they just started up, just really struggling. I'm just like, damn, bro. I mean, it really sucked for me to kind of watch some of that, tearing up. But we had one guy we talked about what the year before ended up coming out being a Denver. Colorado, kind of the bottom of this tier, 822. I mean, as much you would think, as many plays as Colorado, they probably would have been up there a little bit more, maybe in the 900s.
Devon Vele
Yes.
from Utah.
Yep.
That they were definitely missing him last year.
I believe it. But I don't know. I mean, Kansas State, I can see it. I mean, Devin Neal, you can see how, 30%, 39 to 60% rush.
So
So
they
you
didn't
can just
trust
kind of,
Jalen. They didn't trust Jalen Daniels / Devin Neal was a great college running back.
yeah. I mean, other than that, you can kind of, I mean, the rush for, Colorado, about 41. I think that's 58% pass for Colorado. So these will just give you a little bit more of an idea. Here's another thing. I don't know. I think Arizona is not going to be as, I don't know. I think this is a team that's going to slip. I know, because they have T-Mac gone. Fafia can't play worth a shit. I know. I know. I just have a feeling that Arizona is just going to be. They're just going to fall down a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, as much as there's one guy I might think that might be all right, but I don't know. Houston at the bottom. I know you mentioned one guy there. You can just see how rush heavy they were compared to their pass. So I mean, there's some offenses here. I know. Is there anything you like or dislike here?
Let's see. I think Colorado's passing is going to come down a little bit because Caden Salter, obviously, we know is a dual threat. So I think that'll be closer to balanced. Oklahoma State is always pass heavy. I mean, we know all the quarterbacks they've had. I mean, that's just how Mike Gundy runs the program. So they should stay about the same. Arizona should, you'd think Krosky Merritt's, he was only there for a game and he got hurt, but last year,
yeah,
I think they would have been running the ball more though, because Noah Fafita is not very good. Noah Fafita, the quarterback, is junk in my opinion. So Arizona, if they're going to be competitive this year and do anything, they're going to have to be more balanced. And then, yeah, Houston. Houston, we have that's the saying. Houston, we have a problem. Okay, I was thinking about that all night. Yeah, that's why they went and got skill position guys. They got Amari Thomas, and they got a couple other guys I didn't mention, a couple of receivers maybe. So yeah. They're trying to address the fact that they couldn't move the ball through the air last year. So
most definitely, yeah. Other than that, that's kind of our breakdown of just the overall conference in general. This is just kind of gives you a little bit more of an eye opener of which teams had the production, what teams really didn't have a lot of the production, give or take. But I mean, it's all about opinionated. Us as fantasy guys, we look at this. I would be like Houston. I'll be like, I wouldn't do anything with Houston being at the bottom of this conference. I probably, honestly, I wouldn't have thought of, guys like from West Virginia or TCU. I I mean, I believe I'm trying to remember who I know. I had some BYU guys that I tried to get RJ Harvey. At one time, my dumbass actually drafted or ended up picking up, Jefferson from UCF, and that was a very terrible mistake. And I tossed his ass to the waiver wire. So this is a nice piece of the pie to take a look at, to actually digest.
Yeah, nice variety.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just kind of I was just curious looking at this, like going down the list of some of the main losses. We mentioned Cam Scattaboo, from last year. That last year's Big 12 fantasy lineup. Cam Scattaboo gone. Shador Sanders gone.
Travis Hunter gone.
Travis Hunter gone. DJ Giddens gone. Ollie Gordon gone. T Mac gone. So there's heavy hitters. The dual, the twin receivers with Iowa State gone. So
Taj Brooks from Texas Tech.
Taj Brooks was a top 10 fantasy player in the conference last year. And he's gone. Running back from Texas Tech, and that's going to hurt them. They're kind of replace that production, but.
I mean, just think about the wide receivers are quick too. Savion Williams, Jack Beck, Brendan Presley from Oklahoma. Oklahoma State. Yep. Stribling. He actually, I think he's gone out of there, or he went to Mississippi. Old Miss.
Oklahoma State's that's another program. I mean, they were awful last year. I think Oklahoma State went 3-9 or something.
Yeah, they were pretty horrible.
They're going to be bad again. Mike Gundy, he's been a made man there. I think he's been there for 20 years, something like that. Mike Gundy might get fired this year, and as he should. They got to bring in something, because they got to have more than this, man. Oklahoma State should have a better program than they do. This kind of a hot take, Jay. But I don't think Mike Gundy's doing anything for this program. They've kind of stalled out. And now they're in trouble. This conference is good. They're going to get eaten alive with the Stribling and Presley were solid, and they weren't great, but they were solid receivers, and you got to replace their production. Bowman wasn't great, but he was a solid quarterback. Ollie Gordon was better than we know how good he was 2 years ago, and then last year no offensive line and some other issues, and it's I don't know. Oklahoma State, how much I talk up Baylor, I'm talking down on Oklahoma State. They're trash.
Yeah, unfortunately. But Oklahoma, they had good wide receivers. They just let them go to wash, and which is the sad thing about it. But good program. I mean, think about it. We had, I love Chuba Hubbard. I mean, he came from OSU.
Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, Ollie Gordon. Just naming a couple
Barry Sanders,
Oklahoma State running backs.
Yeah, it is. But on to the finale of the show.
Waiting for this.
Yes.
Wait. Drum roll, please.
Boom.
Top 15. There we go.
Yes. So my top 15 does not have any tight ends in it this go around, which is on foreign scene. I was literally trying to find someone or anything to put in my top 15, and that honestly did not happen. So, but we talked about Eric McAllister earlier, which is kind of surprised that, kind of thinking about it, I'm like, dude, why'd I have him at 15? I actually probably should have him at 14 at least, but that's just me though. When I was thinking about it, I'm like, dang it. Honestly, these should be flip-flop. I think Chris Hunter would be 14. Chris Hunter is actually a fairly tall receiver, 86 fantasy points, 82 targets. So, I mean, both of these two guys actually almost had similar, targets, but McAllister did a little bit better production. But, T-Mac down there in Arizona, I don't think he will. I can see he can not really fill his shoes, but he'll be a target for Fafia in that aspect. So I think his targets will end up probably being in the 80s, probably to 6 to 7, maybe to 600 to 800 yards, maybe 4 to 5, or maybe a little bit more, but it's hard saying. But with the production going to T-Mac quite a bit over there, and then they had Chris Cooley too as well. But the sad thing is that if Fia can stop throwing interceptions, this team might actually be pretty decent.
That's never gonna stop. like stopping a leaky fountain. No, Noah Fafita's gonna death, taxes, and Noah Fafita turning the football over. That's
yeah. But yes. So anyways, this should actually, this shouldn't be targets, but that should be his average. Dampier, 442 fantasy points, 36 average, 216 or 2,700 some odd passing yards. Quite. I mean, 12 interceptions, a little much. So you can see he's a little loose on the ball. So I mean, the interception ratio needs to be dropped down here. So hopefully, maybe that will stem down a little bit. This being going to Utah, 12 touchdowns isn't bad, but I mean, this guy should be seeing like 20 some odd touchdowns. With his capabilities for 13. And my 12 and 11, Jaden Nixon, he was a West Bronco, 186 fantasy points, 143 carries, not targets, but 921 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7+ 20-yard breakaways. McAllister kind of the same thing as looking down there. So those are them, during the game. So I pretty much look down and kind of see how often these guys are breaking out. 7+ 20-yard carries. I mean, every that's almost half the season that this guy is tearing up, defenses, running through them. But yeah, this guy actually I had to do a little, and you're probably wondering why I have him on my list, because I mean RJ Harvey's gone. The carry's got to go somewhere, and I believe this guy can actually do a little bit, because I mean almost 1,000-yard back. The crazy thing is that he's back in because he used to be a Cowboy, so he ended up transferring out because probably Ollie Gordon taking the carries away, so he wanted to get some kind of playing, so he ended up being a Bronco. Now he's back in the Big 12, and I think he kind of knows the Big 12. So I have a feeling this is a kid to kind of be watching. And number 11, Joseph Williams. Kind of mentioned him in my sleepers. So he's a guy on my list that I'm going to be watching for this upcoming season. I mean, this guy had 6+ 20-yard receiving games. Breaking out, running for plus 20 yards. I mean, this guy's got some breakaway speed. He's got he can get off routes pretty great. So I mean, kids, for a freshman, this is some great talent.
Yeah, Jaden Nixon, I remember last year, damn good season. Nice pickup by UCF. Not quite, you're dreaming if anybody thinks he's gonna be RJ Harvey, but he's gonna be solid. He's gonna fill the role nicely. So Nixon should. I think he was listed as number 2 on the depth chart, but I have a hard time thinking that he's not going to be the feature guy with UCF. Yeah. He was too good last year at Western Michigan. So
yeah, most definitely.
Hunter's an interesting prospect. I think Noah Fafita's junk, but pass attempts got to go somewhere. So if Hunter kind of ends up being the de facto number 1 or number 2 receiver, worth looking into, going to be a waiver guy. So other guys we've mentioned. So
yes. All right, 10-6 is kind of interesting. I know we already talked about LJ Martin. Love the guy. 164 fantasy points, 138 carries, 7 touchdowns, 4+ 20 yards. Not the speedster that we would really think of when we think of BYU. But they also had a 2-headed monster too a little bit. I mean, they had Rapati up in there, and he kind of gave away a few touchdowns too. So I mean, kind of a 1-2 punch when you think about it. But I mean, Martin was the better guy. I think Rapati is still down there. So I mean, it's still going to be probably a 1-2 punch. At 723 yards last year, he might go up a little bit more. Maybe close to maybe the 900s. Maybe he can see 9 touchdowns. But that's going to be we talked about the quarterback being a freshman. So they might be running a little bit more. I don't know. I'm actually gonna have to watch a couple BYU games and kind of see what's going on here and see. But I got LJ
Watch
Martin as my yep.
LJ and Bear Bachmeyer, and you got Chase Robert here. Got quite.
Yeah.
I think I'm sensing some BYU love from you.
Dude, I love BYU. I mean, I was on Chase Roberts last year. I love the guy and whatnot. I mean, I know he's famous for one great catch that he had because it's out there, the one nice hand catch, so that's been out there with this guy. Yeah, that should have been not carries, but targets. See, I was in a hurry to, get back from work here, and some of my stuff was not on par. Oh, that's what happens. That's what happens though. But you go with the flow. I know you didn't really have a Iowa State guy, but I like Chase Sowell. I mentioned him a little bit last year from ECU. He actually started kind of picking up the pace a little bit more toward the end of the year. 3 touchdowns, not a lot, but he did have quite a few plus 20-yard receiving gains, which is pretty nice after the catch. I like that aspect, especially going to Iowa State where he's replacing a couple, 2 guys that had 1,000 yards each. So it was either one or the other that was actually getting touchdowns. But with those 2 guys gone, I think Chase will be the number 1 guy there. So I honestly see his yards actually going up there. I honestly think this guy probably could see 100 some odd targets going his way. Honestly, from the 58. So I mean, I think this guy's got production in him. We only seen just a little bit from this guy. But I like him at number 9. I like Chase a little bit too, but Eli just mentioned they gotta have maybe I should flip flop these guys around, but I mean, I still love BYU. I still love Chase. They had Lassiter down there too as well, but Chase was their main goal guy down
Lassiter,
there.
I remember him.
Yeah. We talked about him a little bit too in one of our spotlights, but 159 fantasy points, 25 targets. Honestly, I was just thinking, like, man, 805, 4 touchdowns. I would love to see the touchdowns go up a little bit. I would love to see this guy see 1,000 yards. And this guy is spectacular. I mean, this guy brings, electric, brings some spark to this BYU offense. I mean, hell, they went 9 games straight, and all of a sudden, they're almost undefeated. Then they started losing games. I mean, they had the spark going, and then they started losing games. So, which was the unforeseen circumstances here. And then we talked about Jaheim White. I got him at number 7 there. 164 fantasy points, 149 targets, 845 yards, 5+ yards on the ground there. So, I mean, guy's got some electricity to him. And I just think that he'll end up seeing some nice bulk of the carries down there. And then I got number 6 at Sam Levitt, 368 fantasy points, almost averaging 30 points per game. Sam Levitt's got some great targets going for him. And you talked about one of his running backs as well. I mean, I actually talked about the interceptions too at 6, which I think this guy is pretty good.
Chase Sowell from Iowa State might be a nice fill-in, and I think you were talking 80 targets you projecting, maybe more.
I think so. I mean, they got him at he's wide receiver 1.
Yeah, and we both liked him a lot at ECU last year, East Carolina. So we mentioned RJ. Jaheim White was kind of a sleeper guy for me, or watch list guy. Sam Levitt, both super high on. Yeah. Chase Robert, he'd be like the kind of like the X factor here especially for my. I didn't have him on my receiver list, or didn't even really mention him. So Chase Robert, we know about the spectacular one-handed catch, and we'll see if his productivity. We'll see where it ends up. They got, like I said, young, true freshman quarterback, and we'll see how good he is, because he'll be dictating things. LJ is going to get his LJ, regardless. But I think the receiver is going to be really dependent on Bear Bachmeyer. So,
yeah, I think so too as well. All right, are you ready for my top 5?
Yes, get the last top 5. I'm gonna get some Tito's.
Oh, all right. All right, so I have Bryson Washington for my number 5 here, and we talked about him earlier. 262 fantasy points, 175 carries. Which is not a lot for I mean, I guess you can kind of say it's a lot for running back, but when you're seeing like over the 250 some odd mark, on a carry, for a running back, that's quite a bit. It means they're pretty much total the workhorse. 1,000 some odd yards, 12 touchdowns, which is what we like to see here, which is double digits, guy just balling out, which Eli and I really love here. 5 plus 20-yard, carries on the ground there. So he's got a little bit of breakaway speed. This guy is kind of he's pretty burly guy. He's a pretty big guy. So number 4, Avery Johnson, 329 fancy points. That's 30 points a game, giving you the rushing upside, which is why I kind of got him up there too, kind of as my number 1 quarterback over here as well. I mean, kind of surprising. I mean, I love the Sam Levitt, but I mean, a guy that has got the rushing upside. You can't go wrong with that. There, anytime you got a dual threat quarterback, they're going to give you the fancy points. They're going to give you the beans. The only downside is that I think his pocket awareness is not so great, especially if he's throwing interceptions. Then that's the only downfall with this kid. 25 touchdowns, great, but the interception ratio a little high. But fancy points. Number 3, Carson Hansen. We talked about him earlier in the show. I got him as my number 3. I want to see. I like to see yards. I like to see yards, especially when it comes to running backs. That where the room is actually open. He's the featured back, and I know how well their passing game is going to end up being. I'm probably going to have to watch that here this weekend because I think Iowa State's playing Kansas, which you mentioned. So that I'm going to keep an eye on that there as well. But I like to see Sal kind of take the beans. But Carson Hansen, can't go wrong with him. And then we talked about the Red Raiders.
The Red Raiders.
Yeah.
I was gonna say quick, Jay. I showed all the listeners how to make a cranberry and vodka. So thank you later.
Caleb Douglas, not carries, 101 targets. This is horrible. When I'm on the rush, I kind of see things. I'm like, oh damn, when I'm thinking I have everything up to snuff, but that's what happens. 877 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7 plus 20 yards after the catch, which I like. And the only Jordan Tyson at number 1, 246 fantasy points, 113 targets, 1,000 yards, 10 plus yards after the catch, 20 plus yards after the catch. So this guy's got the beans. He's got the talent.
Jay, he's a yak monster.
Yes, let's put it that way. But this is my top 5. I mean, I don't know. Could I change it? Yeah. Could it, I mean, there was quite a bit of guys I would love to put up here, but I mean, it is what it is. I probably could have put Dampier up here, put Avery Johnson down, but it is what it is. I mean, there's a couple other guys I probably could have mentioned in this list that I had too. And I was thinking about Jalen Daniels. I'm like, God, Kansas is not really that great. I mean, probably not nothing to really take a look at. I mean, one guy from Utah is Wayshawn Parker, who was a transfer in from Utah. I mean, he's a guy that might be seeing some carries down there in Utah that, actually had a decent season. So I'm like, he's kind of a guy that I'll be more likely going to be watching down there. Did you mention Dean Connors from Houston, running back?
He was a guy I looked at. I remember Dean Connors at Rice last year, and he wasn't like a true feature guy. He was more, kind of like your 500-600 yard receiver, 500-600 yard, runner. So I mean, and fantasy wise, like he put up some good stats. Don't get me wrong. Dean Connors was was one of the better with Rice was one of the better players in their conference. Going to Houston, and that's right down the street, basically, Rice to Houston. So he's right in the same area. Coming over to the Big 12. I could see Dean Connors being a sleeper guy. Because I had him rostered on one of my teams last year. So I know all about Dean Connors.
But yeah, there was other than that, I just pretty much one other guy.
I also know all about cranberry and vodkas. This is freaking
awesome. The other guy I kind of want to mention too for kind of a watch guy is Ismail Mohammed, who was actually down in Texas State or
Texas State. Yep.
So he was a guy down there, transferred to Arizona. He might be second on the depth chart, but that guy he put up almost 1,000 some odd yards and 4 touchdowns on top of it.
He ain't going to be putting up those numbers with Noah Fafita at quarterback. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not very high on Arizona. Like T-Mac was the reason I tuned in last year, as we all did. But yeah, the rest Arizona, Krosky Merritt got hurt week 1. He's gone. He went to the NFL. Like, I don't know. There's certain programs in this conference that I could give, honestly, like if it's just a watching thing, if it's not a fantasy thing, I don't give 2 shits about Arizona. I think Oklahoma State's going to be junk. I think Houston's going to be better. So Houston will be watchable. I would say Arizona, Oklahoma State, and who's the other team? Yeah, UCF. I think UCF is going to be bad. Go down the list here. Texas Tech should be okay. So Texas Tech should still be in the mix. Iowa State, obviously. I thought I heard the sirens coming. I thought there was somebody down. I thought I heard somebody getting arrested. So I'm in like not really a sketchy, but a sketchier area of Sioux Falls where I'm at. So I'm like, I thought I heard sirens. No, but as I was saying, like Iowa State's going to be in the mix. Arizona State's going to be back again. Baylor, I'm super high on. West Virginia, kind of mid. Texas Tech should be solid. Not with their NIL budget, Texas Tech is going to get better in the coming years. So Texas Tech is a program on the rise. They're just not going to be great now. Probably 7-8 win team. TCU, they always manage to win. Just when you think they're down and out, they'll win 8-9 games. K-State, K-State's going to be good. They'll probably be 9-3, something like that. 8-4, 9-3. BYU, I think, is going to take a step back. They're not going to be junk because BYU's got a decent program, but they'll take a step back. They'll be fighting to be bowl eligible. Colorado, it just depends on what Caden Salter, if he can kind of get back to his 2023 form and, kind of what their defense does, if they can get any help in the running game. Cincinnati, kind of mid, kind of like West Virginia and, in that same mix. OK State, junk. Arizona, junk. Kansas, junk. Utah should be better. Devin Dampier at least gives you a reason to watch Utah. They destroyed, Cam Rising did so much damage to that program. Like he got people's hopes up. Like he looked like he looked like a broke ass pirate and couldn't get on the damn field, couldn't help him out. Was 4-8 last year. Kyle Whittingham's a good coach. They run a good program there. Utah's always competitive. Last year, I think as a mirage. I think Utah's gonna be back. They'll be in that 8-9 win mix, and Houston's gonna be better. I think the worst team in the conference, honestly, is I would say it's one of 4 teams. You pick your poison. It's OK State, Arizona, Kansas, or UCF. I think those are the 4 worst teams in the conference.
There you go. So that wraps up, our Big Ten breakdown. It was fun. It was a blast. I mean, shit. It was almost a 2-hour show here. A lot to digest, especially with the fantasy season going on. You know, man, I mean, we talked a lot of points here. We pretty much talked about tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. No defenses, but I mean, there was a lot we threw out there to you guys, and hopefully you guys can digest this stuff in the manner you guys want to digest all this stuff. And I don't know. Is there anything else you want to mention before we get up out of here? I have some more beers to drink, and I have some pizza to eat.
Yeah. Right. I've been we need like we need to grow this channel so we can get a sponsorship from Tito's or Wheatley vodka. Wheatley, so nice, drink it neatly. We need some kind of vodka sponsorship. Cause I'd be drinking this shit all like water. We drinking this shit all night long. This is fucking awesome. So Jay, season starts technically this Saturday. K-State, Iowa State, and Ireland. Luck of the Irish, so that should be a lot of fun. Kansas is getting underway. See that pathetic Jalen Daniels. See what the hell he's about. See what Kansas is about. They're junk to me. Though they should win this game, but that'll be one of their like 3 wins this year. So Kansas, but yeah, the marquee game, top 25 matchup, Iowa State, K-State. This might determine. This could have a big impact on who wins the conference. Iowa State's going to be in the mix. K-State's going to be in the mix. So definitely an important game. Covered the Big 12. Boom, check mark, bang that out. Big 10, bang that out. Sun Belt, both divisions, banged them out. AAC, banged it out. So we, like Jay was saying, we know the season's starting. This is fun for us. We're trying to kind of do our own version of introducing all 136 teams, FBS teams to you, bringing it conference to conference to conference. Even if the year starts, we both have jobs. I've been running like a madman, doing some of the stuff I've been doing. Jay the same thing. We both have family stuff we have committed to as well. So we want to get this content out, but we want it to be at a certain level. We want to make sure this is good content, good quality content. And so it's taken us a while to get to this point, we know, but season's looming, but we're going to bang out who do we have left? We got the MAC, Conference USA, the
Mountain West.
ACC.
Yep, ACC,
Pac-12 has
SCE.
got 2 teams, so that should be easy. We can do that in like 20 minutes. But especially with all the players Washington State lost, you know what I mean? Kyle Williams gone, John Mateer gone.
Yeah,
So there's still some conferences to get to, but we've knocked out quite a bit just with the 4 conferences that we've done. But and then once we get that all wrapped up and tied up in a bow, we'll get back to what we were doing last fall and giving you guys. And maybe we'll give you that content as well. If we can get the time in our schedules for that, we'll give you a week to week, waiver pickups for sure. By the middle of the year for sure, you'll be getting that weekly. But we'll try to work in waivers as well. Get our own drafts done. As you can tell by the crow's feet under our eyes, like we're both burning some midnight oil, doing this stuff, but we love it, and I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else but you, buddy. So,
I appreciate that. I mean,
cheers, enjoy a beer after we're done streaming here. Yep, there we go. Been almost 2 hours of this, but we fucking love it, and damn it, we're looking forward to a great 2025 season. And screw, what? Maybe this is the vodka talking. I don't know, but screw all these bigger conferences. There's going to be a lot of action. There's going to be a lot of fun with G5 programs. There's going to be a lot of fun with some of the Big 12, ACC. Don't just buy into this ESPN crap where they fucking talk about is oh, is Alabama gonna, are they gonna improve from last year's 9-3, or is, is whatever, is Georgia back in the mix of the top 4? It's like I don't give a shit about, I really don't. Like Jamie doesn't either. Like we don't care. Like fantasy, fantasy's the great. They say death is the great equalizer. Fantasy is the great equalizer because fantasy points all pay the same. And last time I checked, there's not anybody on Alabama. Alabama's quarterback doesn't really, he doesn't really do it for me. He's not on my fantasy radar right now. So this should be a great fantasy year. If we don't get a chance to stream again before the K-State Iowa State game, cheers to the start of the 2025 college season. It's be a lot of fun. We're going to be around for the coming months. And this is a year-round show, but we're going to be around for the coming months. Can't wait, man. Can't wait. We're going to talk some, and we got other things to work into other than waivers.
Maybe some props. Who knows? I mean, we got props that we love talking about.
Props,
over and under.
Some gambling advice. Yeah, definitely. We don't work a lot of the gambling angles in, but yeah, that's something we do as well. So that and there might be some new elements to the show as well. Squad Blitz, we're bringing back Squad Blitz as well. Squad Blitz is very fun. I wish more people would get into that. We'll invite anybody that wants to join. Hopefully, watching a few of our streams, your curiosity will be piqued, and you'll be like, oh shit, I need to join in on the fun. Love Squad Blitz last year. Looking forward to this year. Hopefully, me and Jamie, one of the two of us will try to win that championship. And dude, I'm so pumped for this. I'm pumped for the NFL too. Football, I love all the sports. I love NASCAR and NBA, all that. But football is it. Football's king. 2 favorite sports: college football, NFL, and Jamie's the same way. So this is like a new year, man. Cheers. This is awesome.
All right. To wrap this up, make sure you follow us on all the social media outlets. X. Make sure you're following all of our audio podcasts on Apple and Spotify. Check out our Discord when you get an opportunity to, and follow us on Instagram. It's not going to hurt you one bit. We post here and there and whatnot. We'll give you an opportunity to just, hopefully we can hear from you, some comments and whatnot. But yes, I'm excited for this season. More to come. We kind of took off on the college thing. Hopefully we get more people into the college fantasy world.
Yes.
So
we're gonna convert people. This will be like damn Islam.
All right. But other than that, we appreciate everybody who was viewing on X, YouTube, the Twitch. We appreciate everybody, that jumped in the comments, a few comments here and there. But other than that, we'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Laters.